Welcome everybody. This is Office Dev Patterns and Practices Community Call, also known as SharePoint Patterns and Practices Community Call, so February 2017 edition. And the whole point of these calls, this monthly call, is to go through one by one what has happened within the last month. So kind of a walkthrough on stuff which the PnP initiative has been releasing in the past month. We do have, on top of this, we do have special interest groups for SharePoint Framework and also for the core component and PowerShell and provisioning engine. And let's talk about all of that in a second. But I'll move on on the presentation, so we can actually get to the demo section as well. So today we have two different demos, one from Erwin van Hunen around the latest on PnP PowerShell. Some might, it might slightly overlap with the special interest group demo from last week, which was already available in the YouTube channel as a recording as well. And the second presenter is Frank Cornu around the latest on the intranet starter kit, which is now supporting on-premises as well. So super cool stuff and great to see those one in practice. But like mentioned, so let's first go through the monthly highlights. So what has been released as part of the PnP initiative within the last month. So what is all of the humongous amount of stuff what we've been doing together with you community around the SharePoint and Office Dev, Office 365 development. And then we go through the individual contributors, companies who've been involved and all of that, and also then those additional demos. So I'll try to be again relatively fast on running through the slides so we can concentrate on the demo section. Because people seem to love live demos, which is completely understandable. But it's also good to go through and get the overall monthly highlights as a recorded video as well. If you have any questions as we go through all of this, please use the IM window. So you can actually absolutely ask questions during the presentation as well. So use the chat window for that one. If you have any really specific questions around some, let's say, technical implementation based on PnP, then the special interest group calls are mainly for that one. This monthly call typically goes through fully based on the monthly highlights and the demos. Today we might, though, have some time for the Q&A in the end as well. So let's see how that goes. But feel free to ask any questions. We have PnP core team members on a call as well, helping on answering any questions, and obviously any other people in the community can participate on the discussion as well. But let's actually get ongoing on the things. Classic slide, which we keep on in every single PnP presentation, just making sure that everybody understands this. SharePoint Patterns and Practices is a SharePoint engineering owned open source community-driven initiative. So we from the SharePoint engineering, we do coordinate these actions and we validate, for example, samples which are coming through, but we work together with you community on providing code samples, guidance documentations, and obviously these community calls, and we have also case studies. The areas are in the SharePoint framework, which will go GA relatively soon, SharePoint adding model for SharePoint Online and on-premises, Microsoft Graph, and Office 365 development in general. SharePoint framework, by the way, obviously many of you have heard this already quite a few times, will be landing on-premises as well. So landing SharePoint 2016 during this calendar year. And we can provide you additional details on timing whenever we get all of the timing sorted out from the SharePoint engineering side, but we cannot actually give more precise timing on that one right now. Now, let's actually go through what has happened within a month. Before we actually go there, just a reminder on finding what's relevant for you, especially from a sample perspective. So all of our samples are always cataloged using this code samples catalog, which is available from the dev.office.com site. So if you go dev.office.com, resources, patterns and practices, there is a code samples link in that page, and that will redirect you to this sample catalog or search tool. And in here, if you're looking for responsive UI guidance or samples or user profile samples or whatever, you just use that as a text criteria, and you'll find the relevant sample for you. One of the new things, which is pretty convenient as well, because the SharePoint framework is going to go GA relatively soon, is that you can easily find, for example, all the SharePoint framework samples by using AKMS link with the AKMS/SPFX samples, and that has predefined filters already on the page when you're landing there. But really great tool to find what's relevant for you, because we do know and understand that we have a lot of stuff and a lot of samples, and it might be really difficult to find out what are all the things, what's happening within the SharePoint development world. Good. So let's start going through what has happened within the past month. So first of all, obviously there has been quite a lot of PnP webcasts and videos. So the PnP webcasts are weekly webcasts, and during the last, let's say, slightly above month, we released 6 webcasts. So between the early January and the mid-February, because this call is on the second Tuesday of every single month, we have released 6 different webcasts. Some of these are for the modern experiences, customization story, as an example. Together with Bert, there's a SharePoint framework related topics, mainly together with Waldeck, and then also updated introduction to SharePoint webhooks. So these are meant to be kind of a 15 to 45 minutes webcasts, weekly webcasts, which concentrate on a specific topic, like the webhooks or the SharePoint framework sample details or whatever. And they are really, really convenient for you to go through in our YouTube channel and go through and have a look on how certain topic can be implemented, as an example. The latest one, which was released yesterday, which was the SharePoint customizations, when to use which model, has been actually a surprisingly popular one already within 24 hours. So it's catching up quite nicely on the view counts. And that really, on that one, we're kind of trying to explain what is the advantages, or when to use WSP packages, adding models, SharePoint framework, and also external applications. So really nice webcast from that perspective. And I would ask everybody to mute themselves so that there's no additional background noise from the within the recording. Good. Moving on things. So quickly, kind of clarifying the monthly statistics. So within the January, we were growing quite hectically from a PnP usage perspective. So the unique tenants grew 33% up to 3,700 tenants, where the core component or PowerShell or PnP JS Core were used. HTTP requests, we track those in the SharePoint Online as well, because we are from SharePoint Engineering, we can access that information, and they grew up to 44.8%. So we are in a 1.3 billion HTTP requests going through the PnP core component and PnP PowerShell. The most used capability is no doubt is the provisioning engine. We hit our target with 2 tenants, so we were less than 1,000 tenants within January using the provisioning engine. Top 5 countries were exactly the same as in December, and top 5 countries, there was a slight change over there. So actually Netherlands dropped from a 2nd position all the way down on 5th position. So UK and Denmark and Finland came up from a HTTP request perspective. And the HTTP requests, typically when there's large migrations, as an example, that is causing a lot of HTTP requests, and we're able to see that within our statistics as well. And there's this really small picture on the world chart, but you can nicely see that the PnP is used across the world, which is a great thing. So all around the world, people are using the PnP PowerShell, PnP Core Component, and PnP JS Core as well, which is super, super great. Good. Top 15 samples in January 2017, and I have a year here and there who counts. So January 2017, obviously. We're tracking individual access or views on these individual samples in a GitHub, and these are really interesting from a, let's say, overall usage perspective. The SharePoint UI responsive, no doubt, number 1 during January, last month. And like it has been actually for the previous month as well, and that's the one which is enabling the classic SharePoint to be responsive. The PnP Sites Core node is super popular as well. The business Office 365 Starter Intranet is the one from Frank Cornu, and Frank is going to show the updated version of that one today, which is no longer actually named like that. There was a name change for that particular sample as well. PnP.js core, pretty popular. Core.event receivers, pretty interesting that the remote event receivers are this popular. One of the things what we've been now adding related on the remote event receivers, especially in the context of SharePoint Online, is references to the webhooks. So remote event receivers absolutely supported and will be supported in the future as well. But in SharePoint Online, there's this additional option to use webhooks for the event tracking as well. And quite a few other, let's say, popular samples which have been pretty much the same in the previous months as well. I'm not going to actually mention all of them. Good. Just to kind of, before we go to the other topics, kind of a design shuffled order in the slides, just quickly explaining how we do stuff in the PnP. So depending on your availability, depending on your interest, you can actually choose how much you want to be involved within the PnP and how much you want to track what's actually happening in the context of the PnP. So the easiest way to ask questions is to go to the SharePoint developer group in the Microsoft Tech community, and that's AKMS SBPnP community, and you'll land to that right group and you're able to ask questions. There are quite a few MVPs, other community members, which are super active over there as well. And we from engineering, we want to be as much as possible and help with those questions as well. Then we do have a bi-weekly SharePoint framework and JavaScript special interest group, and this is really targeted for the SharePoint framework, what has happened. We cover all of the latest changes, we cover the samples around that, and typically we have demos around the SharePoint framework in that call as well. Then there's the bi-weekly PnP Core, PnP PowerShell, and Provisioning Engine special interest group. So if you're more on the PowerShell or in the .NET development or managed code side and interested about that one, that's bi-weekly call as well. And these calls, this special interest group works in a different weeks. So you can actually, if you're super interested, you can join to a one call in every single week. And then we have this monthly community calls where we go through what has happened within the whole month. And these are more around us presenting, not as, let's say, interactive as the special interest group calls, to do also the common numbers, how people are attending on these calls. Good. On topic. So one of the things which we released also during last month in January is the updated version of Getting Started with SharePoint Framework. These are 6 tutorials, if I remember correctly, which have step-by-step guidance. First of all, how to install or set up your development environment, and then how do you build your first SharePoint Framework web part, how do you actually implement connectivity to SharePoint, how you host that in SharePoint, how you then deploy that to production usage, and then a few different topics around jQuery usage and Office UI Fabric React usage. So really, really nice tutorials, which you can walk through by yourself within a computer, or alternatively have a look on the video recording of those tutorials as well. So again, up to you, how do you actually want to approach learning about the new SharePoint framework itself. And like mentioned, SharePoint framework GA, essentially meaning general availability. The first version which goes production is actually relatively soon, so it's going to happen rather in weeks than in months, which is a pretty good thing. So sooner or later you'll see more news around that one, and I can't give you the exact date obviously during this call because due to various reasons, but anyway. AKMS SPFX tutorials is the easiest URL to remember around that, and then on every single written tutorial there's a link to the video in the YouTube channel if you're interested about the video as well. And we'll update these to GA version whenever we get the GA out around the SharePoint framework. Good. Some few kind of a random topics. I can go this through, or Bert, do you want to go this through? Either way, this is German Cloud is Bert, your baby. So
sure, I can talk. I was just writing a message in the chat window. Yeah, so German Cloud released in January 2017. So essentially, Microsoft has different environments to host your SharePoint Online tenants. So we have what we call a production environment, which is data centers across, so data center in US. and data centers in Europe, but they are all managed by Microsoft people. So there's always some concern around data, meaning Microsoft people access to data. There are some rules in place. Now, there was a big request to have really isolated data centers. So we have now a German data center, which is completely isolated. It's run by non-Microsoft people. So in this case, I think Vestas T-Systems, that's run in Germany. So essentially, it's in Germany, in Europe, run by non-US people. And we have the same in China, and we have the same for US government. So we have 4 kind of environments where your SharePoint Online tenant can live. Now that's all fine, but it has an impact on development. So if you want to authenticate against one of these new environments like Germany or China, the regular endpoints that you have for Azure ACS or regular Azure Active Directory, they don't work anymore. So just to clarify that, we wrote an MSDN article, which you can see the link at the very end of the slide, showing you the actual URLs to use. If you have your existing code, you can plug in those URLs. If you're using PnP, I think it's even easier because we updated PnP Authentication Manager class to have an additional parameter in the authentication methods where you can just specify like, okay, I'm authenticating against Germany, China, or production, the regular one, which you can omit because it's a default value. So I think that will make it easier for you guys running your customizations against those environments. Can you move to the next slide, Vesa? Okay. The title is a little bit misleading. What did we change? So essentially, this is about NuGet packages. So as part of this release, we did, well, kind of a breaking change in our NuGet package. So we wanted to explain what we did and why we did it, so you understand what's the reasoning behind. So in all of our NuGet packages, whether that's SharePoint 2013, 2016, or Online package, we had a reference to the App for SharePoint Online Web Toolkit package, which is a Microsoft package, which essentially brought you SharePoint Context, Token Helper, and SharePoint Context Filter attribute inside your projects. Which was fine because we wanted to have like a uniform behavior, and bringing along these files was okay. Some people liked them and could use them. If you don't need them, you just drop them and things were fine. However, with recent updates to App for SharePoint Online Web Toolkit, it got an additional dependency. So Microsoft changed that package to have a dependency on the Microsoft SharePoint Online CSOM package. On its own, not a problem if you use the NuGet for our NuGet for SharePoint Online, because you need those CSOM assemblies anyhow. But for the people using our on-premises packages, this meant that we pulled down the online NuGet packages for on-prem deployments, which caused many issues. So that's why we took this change. We essentially removed this App for SharePoint Online Web Toolkit package. So you don't get those files, SharePoint Context Token Helper, they're not added anymore. But we got rid of this issue with you ending up with online assemblies in your on-premises project. If you still need do app only, 2 options. Either you use the PnP Authentication Manager class, that's the easiest one because it is one line to get an app only client context. Alternatively, you can also install the specific app for SharePoint Web Toolkit from premises, and I just left the XXX on the slide. So XXX means the app for SharePoint Web Toolkit. So sorry for that. 2 other changes we did is we dropped the dependency on Microsoft Identity Model extensions. So we had some issues with this particular assembly. First of all, because it's not universally available. It is deployed using the Visual Studio SharePoint tooling, which means only those deployments have it. This caused problems, for example, with PowerShell. If you install PowerShell and this assembly might not be there. Second thing is we have issues with Windows 10 patches that kind of dropped this assembly. So there were too many issues with this assembly, and there was not a clean way to always ensure it's available. So that's why we essentially kind of moved it away and replaced it with a new package, the SharePoint PnP Identity Model Extensions package, which is actually an open source version of this Microsoft Identity Model Extensions package. So we taken the source code from that one, kind of made our own package, and released it as a NuGet package on GitHub. And we will maintain it as part of the PnP project. We don't really expect many changes to this particular one, because it's a little bit of legacy technology, but nevertheless, it is still an important component to make the Azure ACS flow work, and that's why we have it now, and now we have this dependency on this package instead of the Microsoft Identity Model Extensions. And the final point is we also added a Newtonsoft JSON reference, because that was still missing. So I think that makes the packages more reliable, and again, uniform and compatible again with SharePoint on-premises deployments. Any questions on the NuGet packages? If not, I think, Vesa, you can take it over.
Yep. So let's continue, because we do have demo section coming up as well. So making sure that we go through the individual slides successfully. Cool. So one step back. So what was actually new on the SharePoint framework side? So we did have 4 new samples during January. So JS extended web part, showing how to extend a Webpack. Sorry, that must have been typo. Extended Webpack should be the name of that sample. But it shows how to extend Webpack in a SharePoint framework toolchain by tags. There's a JS extend gulp, which is showing how to integrate custom gulp tasks to SharePoint framework toolchains if you're interested on doing that. There was a sample from Sergey around Vue.js to do single file component. So how to use Vue.js in the context of SharePoint framework. And there's then also a sample from Russell related on React Video Library. And Russell actually, and also Sergey, demonstrated this in the previous special interest group call for SharePoint Framework. So if you're interested in seeing those two live, go back to the YouTube video channel and have a look on the recording. We did have a lot of guidance documentation for SharePoint Framework during January, so a lot of additional documentation available. For example, there was articles related on enterprise development and team-based development with SharePoint Framework. Really great guidance to build and created together with community around the SharePoint Framework now that we're closing into the GA in the SharePoint Online as well. We also moved some of the REST documentation from MSDN to dev.ops.com, and we actually keep on doing similar stuff also for adding model during the February. So gradually some of the elements are moved from MSDN and relocated to the dev.ops.com/SharePoint due numerous reasons. MSDN is going to be, sooner or later, the sections related on SharePoint in MSDN are going to be shut down or locked down because that's super old technology and people cannot contribute on these articles using GitHub or any other tooling. So we're kind of moving along to have more flexible publishing mechanism as well. On the samples and guidance, so we did have a webhooks.list.azure.ad as a new sample underneath the SPDF samples. The developer tools for SharePoint PnP Visual Studio extensions from Ivan, really great sample. The first one was from Bert. The business of 365 starter intranet. Actually, that sample has been updated. That title is slightly misleading, but Frank is going to show that one live after going through the slides. And then there were some updates on the PnP partner bag. And we also had that updated article on the MSDN related on authorization considerations for tenants which are not hosted in a normal public cloud, rather hosted, for example, in Germany using by T-Systems. And also updates on the existing SharePoint Modern Experiences customization guidance. Those articles related on SharePoint Online Modern Experiences and the customization story around them are being updated on a weekly basis. So if you're really looking into the latest and greatest, how would I customize modern lists? How would I customize a modern live sites? Go and update yourself on the latest changes within those articles. Good. On the core and engine and updates, there was a lot of updates actually on the core components and the provisioning engine, and also in the PowerShell side. On the PowerShell side, Erwin is going to show a lot of these in practice in a second. On the core component side, there was a lot of changes around the basic support and basic functionalities. There will be a slightly bigger refactoring of the core component, or more specifically the provisioning engine, during the February, so which will align us, or which will enable us easier maintenance within the upcoming months for the future. And then there was a lot of there was also updates in the core JS component done by, or driven by Patrick, who's in the call as well. And Patrick has a great blog post on explaining what has happened within the last month on that one. Like Bert mentioned, just quickly pinpointing this one explicitly, so we do have a new PnP identity model NuGet package, which is essentially addressing the issue of distributing Microsoft.identitymodel.extension. This is one of the assemblies which are getting included on the developer machine whenever you install a SharePoint Visual Studio tooling or Office tooling, but we didn't actually have a distribution mechanism for it. So there was no NuGet packages, no nothing. So right now we had a long discussions with Azure AD guys, and we decided to go open source with a kind of a PnP version of this particular assembly. Which is now an option for you to use as well within your customizations, and our core component has a dependency on that NuGet package as well. There was a lot of people obviously participating from a community side on this release as well. So I'm not going to mention all of you by name. I do apologize about that one, but it takes too much time to go through every single person and what they've contributed. But absolutely thank you for your contributions. And this is how we should be working. We, Microsoft, work together with the community members, and then we can address the gaps and issues and challenges together until those will be could be resolved maybe in a product, or maybe it is a community-driven initiative like the site provisioning story, at least for now, or the remote site provisioning story, at least for now. On a Microsoft side, on a company side, these are just the companies from which the previous people have been working, and these are the companies which we have a permission to show their logo, which are essentially giving approval for their employees to participate in open source initiatives, and some of them are dedicating even some time for their employees to do so, which is a great thing. We know that there's a lot of people using the PnP tooling and PnP components, and we are highly dependent on this, let's say, cooperation together with these companies and the contributors working with us for providing you the value what the PnP does, which is great. On the Microsoft side, a relatively typical set of people. So the PnP core team members, there's a lot of people who are helping us on the MSDN or in the documentation side as well, but relatively classic list of Microsoft employees in this side. Good. Just a quick roadmap slide. This is super fast. We actually don't have any specific, really detailed roadmap in the PnP right now, except in a few different areas. SharePoint Framework is going to go GA relatively soon, so we keep on evolving the documentation on that one, and the samples, and upgrading the samples to the release candidate level first, and then to the GA level. Provisioning engine, and there will be a pretty massive refactoring happening on that one. If you're super interested on what are you guys doing, have a look on the special interest group recording from last week, where Paolo actually goes through and explains what are we planning to do within the provisioning engine. The key objective of this refactoring is actually increase the quality of the engine and make sure that the future maintenance will be easier and faster for all of us. And then on the samples and solutions, SharePoint Framework, no doubt, is the priority, and your contributions are more than welcome on the classic PnP side, in quotes, I wouldn't call it classic, but the PnP side, and also on the SharePoint Framework side as well. But let's actually move on to the demo section. And I was thinking that let's start with Frank, and then we can go to Erwin after that. So Frank, if you're ready to go, feel free to start presentation. You are presenter already.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Vesa?
Yes, all good.
Good. Okay, I will share my screen. Okay, so hi everyone. I'm Frank Cornu. I'm an Office Development MVP, and today I will show you the updates I've made to the starter intranet. So just to recap, what is this solution? So it is a solution, a publishing intranet for SharePoint Online, SharePoint 2013 and 2016. So this is a basic publishing intranet implementing all common requirements like navigation, multilingualism, and page creation, news creation. So I will show you in this demo how to use this solution. So for this demo, I will take the example for SharePoint 2013. So as you can see on my screen, this is the final solution. After deploying this solution, this is what you get. So first of all, to deploy on-premises SharePoint installation, you will need to install some prerequisites. So first of all, you will need to set up the manage metadata service, and especially the languages. So this solution uses the French and English languages, so you will have to select the correct languages. And another option, you will need to go to the manage metadata proxy, and don't forget to check this option. Oops, this one. Okay. Next, you will have to install the latest PowerShell PnP commandlets. So you can choose different version for 2013, 2016, or online. So for this version, I recommend you to use the latest version, so the February release, to deploy the solution. So next in the solution, you have also an extensibility provider. So for this, you also will need to select the correct NuGet package. So according to the targeted version, you will need to select the correct one. So for instance, for SharePoint 2013, I will select this one, and make sure the version is the same as the PowerShell commandlets. Okay, so to get it working. So you will need configure manage metadata service, install PowerShell commandlets, NuGet package, and then Node.js. So the solution is it's all about JavaScript. So you will need to install some JavaScript tools like Node.js. You will need to install packages of the solution, and you will need to install also Webpack globally. And then the deployment is pretty simple. So all you need is to create a new PowerShell script and select the correct URL, pass your credential, and you're good to go. So you have the option to include some dummy data, like this, for instance, the carousel or the link, or you can deploy a blank solution. So this solution uses the PnP provisioning engine a lot. So you can deploy this solution from any workstation. For instance, I'm on a Windows 10 machine. I can deploy on my SharePoint 2013 site with no problem. Also, we use Webpack to bundle the solution and have a single file for the whole application. So I will show you later. So the deployment takes about 10 and 15 minutes to deploy, so it's pretty quick. And like I said, this is what you get after deploying this solution. So this is the SharePoint 2013 experience, but for instance, this is the Office 365 experience. It's pretty the same. This is the same code for the three platforms. So few tweaks to adapt, but this is basically the same code. It's all about client-side development. So to continue of the solution, so from a functional point of view, this is a publishing intranet. So this is a custom master page. I use Bootstrap have a responsive design. So as you can see, you can scroll the site from a mobile. Some components like carousel and so on. This is behind the scenes. This is Bootstrap I've used for this part. So this is a custom master page. You have to make sure you have the right to update the master page. I will show you the page creation. I will go through different use cases. So, for instance, if I want to create a news, I will go to my pages library here. Some default pages are already provisioned, the home page and so on. So I will create a news, then a new page. So this solution uses some predefined page layouts. So, but you can use also default page layout of SharePoint. There is no problem with it. So I will create a page. So this is the basic publishing infrastructure of SharePoint. So this is not the modern canvas, but this is what you get when you create a new page. And this is the basic experience of the basic publishing experience. So as you can see, all the fields are stacked into the page because we in a edition mode we don't need to have a responsive design. So that's why all the fields are stacked into the page. So you have a few common fields like content categories. So it's all driven by the taxonomy. So for example, we can set multiple values here. Some few fields, default publishing fields from SharePoint, an open tags column, and this is the basic experience. Here, and I save this page. I will show you the translation process just after, and this is what you get. So you have a quick launch here, already classified. You have the main menu, and you have the main content. This is also responsive, so the news is responsive as well. And if you have multiple language in your intranet, like the case for instance for me, because I live in Quebec, so we have both French and English. I've included also a translation mechanism. So to translate the page, this is a very simple mechanism. So just go here through a custom field. Let's say I want to create French news. Just go here and create your page. And you're good to go. And as you can see, all the UI has switched to the French language. So this is driven by the taxonomy for all the menus here. This is all driven by the taxonomy. So I will just show you the backend of this site. So for navigation, I have several menus. So I have the quick launch, the top nav here, a header, and a footer. You don't see it, but we have multiple menus. So if I want to manage the navigation, it's pretty simple for a power user to do this. You can go to the theme store management. So all the menus and term sets are all isolated in the site collection itself to ensure there won't be any conflicts with the global configuration of the farm or the Office 365 tenants, especially for the taxonomy part and also for the search configuration. So as you can see, you have multiple term sets for the navigation. So if you want to add, for instance, term, just here my link. And you have the navigation tab here, and you can set a simple link, so it can be SharePoint page or an hard link you choose here. So just save, I go back, right, and you can see my link appears here. So I've also implemented a very simple cache system to improve performances. So if I refresh the page, all the time the links are fetched dynamically. So if you want to improve performances, you can set the cache. So if I want to use the cache, for example, I will go to the site content. I have a configuration list here, and for every, especially for the top menu and quick launch, I have a configuration item here. Just edit, and I can just unset the cache flag. And the next time I go to my site, it's pretty fast. Behind the scene, it uses the local storage of the browser. So if you go to the application tab and you select the local storage, you can see all the nodes are here. So it's pretty basic system, pretty basic intranet. If I go to the code, just to show you, this is pretty simple. The solution uses Knockout.js and the component binding. This is not very specific to Knockout, but you have the same patterns, I think, with Angular or React. But basically, the component binding allows me to do this kind of thing. For example, if I want to add a carousel on my page, just edit the page, and as you can see, this is a simple script editor. So all I need to add a carousel is to type this code, no more. And all components inside the solution are built following the same pattern. So you have a view model, a template. For example, so if I take the example of the top nav, I have the view model, which is the logic. As you can see, I use the PnP JS library, so very useful to call SharePoint REST APIs. So components are all built the same way: a view model, an HTML template, and a style sheet. So if you want to add your own components, basically you follow the same pattern, and you will be able to define your component in the main .ts, because the solution is also written with using TypeScript. And as you can see, I define my component here, and for the carousel, this is basically the same, and it allows me to type this kind of syntax in my pages. So very simple to add new components. As I said, the solution relies on the SP PnP.js library and TypeScript. So a very modular architecture. So you can just enhance this behavior to add your own component. I think this is really it for the presentation. If you want some detail about this solution, you have the complete installation guide here, and also on my blog you have all the parts from a functional point of view and also a technical point of view. For example, to see how the navigation is implemented or how the translation system is implemented. So feel free to use this solution. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. And just to reiterate what Frank was showing, so this is a great solution from that perspective. It is showing a lot of different areas also from a PnP, let's say, component perspective. It is using the PnP PowerShell to provision stuff. It is using the PnP JS core to access the information in SharePoint. It also shows actually how to use modern web stack development within an on-premises, because that solution works in a SharePoint Online and in on-premises. One comment, by the way, on the IAM window. So, and Irvin, feel free to start sharing, just prepping for your demo. One comment on the IAM window was that, hey, this is using a custom master page. Is that really the recommended approach? The answer is, well, yes and no. It's not a black and white situation, especially with the custom master pages in publishing sites. And Irvin, give me 1 second. You're breathing too heavy.
Sorry for that.
Yeah. So the using of a custom master page, it's not preferred. If you can do your stuff without a custom master page, that's good. Now, in certain scenarios, if your business requirements and functional requires demand a scenario where you cannot enable that using a custom master page, then sure, it is absolutely supported. The key point is to understand that if you choose to use a custom master page, what does it mean, especially in SharePoint Online? Because then it means that your pages and functionalities might be slightly blocked, or you're not getting them at the same time, so the evergreen story isn't as suitable. But really the key point is to understand the decision. Do we want to do that, or do we not want to do that? If you can be without a custom master page, that's good. If you can't, it's not like they are fully supported. So from that perspective, absolutely fine. But let's move into the Irvin's demo. So let's move into the PnP, latest on the PnP PowerShell. So Irvin, take it away.
Can I breathe again?
Yes, you can. Yes. Please do, Irvin. We don't want to lose you.
Right. Thank you. Right, so there's a couple of things I want to address. I would like to start first with a bit of a deprecation story. So when we released the commandlets already quite a while ago, we used a prefix, the SPO prefix, and you still see that every now and then. Get SPO site, get SPO list. And that made sense at the time when we started to do it, but then we started to expand the commandlets, and then we found out that we suddenly released a commandlet that was conflicting with the Office 365 management shell, the SharePoint management shell for Office 365. Because there was also a get SPO site commandlet in there, and which one to use. So we've been thinking a long time on how to solve that, and in the end we decided for a heavy change, and we changed our prefix from SPO to PnP. That was introduced last year, and now we're starting the deprecation story by, for the latest release, get SPO site is gone from our commandlets. So if I enter get SPO, well, not make a typo, type get SPO site, you see you get no connection available. It is actually the one that I'm loading right now is the one from the management shell from SharePoint, because it also says use connect SPO service, which is not a PnP commandlet. So this is now not working anymore. You will have to use get PnP site. Also notice that if you use one of the existing commandlets in the SPO version, for instance, if I do get SPO list, you will get a warning. It will still return the results as you expected, but you will get a warning for every SPO commandlet that you use that we will deprecate them in June 2017. And in this case, deprecation means they will be gone. You will not be able to execute get SPO list anymore. So if you have scripts lying around, upgrade them and make them use get PnP list. Same commandlet, but then it works without the warning. So having said that, I want to go back a tiny bit in time. I'll go to the beginning of January when we did the release there, and I'm going to go through a couple of the commandlets which we released since then, which are pretty nice, I think. We have currently over 209 commandlets. That's quite a long list of commandlets, so obviously I will not go through all of them. But one of the things I want to show is that we now have the ability from PowerShell to maintain and manage your recycle bin. So if I do get PnP recycle bin item, press enter, I get my recycle bin, and you see that I obviously test a lot and delete those items too. And there's corresponding commandlets like restore recycle bin item, move recycle bin item from the second stage to the first stage, etc. And they also come in a version that allows you to manage the tenant level recycle bin. So if you delete the site collection, it ends up with this tenant level recycle bin. You can move sites or restore sites back from that recycle bin also through PowerShell. Another commandlet, set of commandlets we introduced are regarding publishing, and more specific the image renditions. So I can say get PnP publishing image rendition, and I will get my image renditions, and I can also create and remove image renditions with corresponding add and remove commandlets. Then written by Mikael Svensson. He wrote in Commandlet that allows you to execute search queries fully from PowerShell. So if I do submit PnP search query, there's a query, I can enter a query, and it can be any normal keyword query that I enter, and I get a result. And if you're a developer, you might be familiar with what you see here. But there is in this case, it maximizes to the maximum number of rows being 500, but there's parameters that allows you to change those values too, and you can iterate through the results fully from PowerShell. Another thing that we did is related to site policies. I can say get PnP site closure. Right now the site is open. I can say if I change this to set PnP site closure, I can set the site to closed. This requires that the site policy has been applied to the site. So for that we have set PnP site policy and get PnP site policy also, but we cannot create, that is a limitation of CSAM, we cannot create site policies through CSAM or through PowerShell. You will have to go to the site, navigate there, and create a site policy that way and apply the policy. You can do that from PowerShell if you want to, but you have to create it through using the web interface. Then we already had it from almost day one. We had commandlets that were related to the taxonomy. So if you do get PnP taxonomy item, this used a somewhat quirky way of referring to taxonomy items. So you could say like, give me all term groups that are starting with AAAA or BBB or whatever called, and it will return, right, I'm not sure, yeah, there's a term group called AAA, and if you want to have a term set in there, and I think there's one called BBBB, then I get a term set. And so there is in the term group AAA, there's a term set BBBB, and there I know for a fact actually that there is a term CCCC in there. And this works, there's a way of doing it, but now we also have commandlets that allows you a tiny bit more PowerShell-y way of doing it, I would say. They are simply get PnP term group, returns all the term group, get PnP term set, and then I can say which term group I want to go into, like for instance AAA there. And I can also say get PnP term, which and then I can get a specific one with an identity that I specify the ID or the name, or in the term set CCC, which is located in the term group, or in this case it's BBBB, B term group AAA, very intuitively named taxonomy I have here. But this is a way of browsing through your terms, and there is also a way to create them and create term groups and create term sets, etc. So there's corresponding commandlets for that too. And then the last thing I want to show today is an error message that you might have run into when you're using the PnP commandlets. And if you're not a developer, you might be a bit stumped by the error message. You're like, what is this? And I'll show you how it behaves. If I do get PnP list, and I say, give me the tasks list in this site, it returns the list. If I put this one in a variable, so now I have a variable being that same list. And if I want to view the views collection of that list, press enter, you get an error message. And this is not you're not going to do something wrong, but this has to do with the way CSAM works. We have to, as a developer, upfront decide what kind of collections or properties on a certain object we want to retrieve from the server. And they do that for performance reasons. So there's much less data going over the wire if I don't need the full views collection. But this is very inconvenient. And then we had commandlets get PnP property to retrieve things on the fly or get PnP context and etc. So we made it a bit easier now. What we can do right now is if I say includes, and then we have here with code completion, you can actually, or code completion or IntelliSense or what you want to call it, you can go through the properties of that specific object you're retrieving. So I only want the views in this case. If I do retrieving the tasks list and do L views, then my views are there.
So, and this is a comma-separated list, so you can specify multiple properties to download at the same time. And that makes your life a tiny bit easier, I hope. For some command lists, it's not for every command list, but most of them where appropriate it works. And for some, we go for 2 levels deep, and some we go 1 level deep. And but that I mean, like for instance, a view has a parent being a list, the list has a parent being a site or a web, and etc. So you can actually go pretty crazy then, and where do you stop? So we basically limit it to maximum 2 levels, but the majority of the command lists that support this have only support 1 level deep. And that's also for performance reasons. Those command lists that support this, we updated, of course, all the help documentation for all the command lists, so you can see if that includes parameter is there, and if you can use it with that specific commandlet. And that is it for me for today.
That was fast. There was already nice discussions on the Ion window related on, oh my God, I used to write hundreds of lines of code to make some of this stuff actually happen, what you were showing, which is pretty cool. And there's a great add-on to the PnP PowerShell. Now, there was a question in the Ion window related on the modern group support, and we do have a native PowerShell for that one. Since Irving is still sharing, can you actually quickly create us a new modern group?
I have to do a connect PnP Microsoft Graph, and then I have to do groups. I have to remember read, write, all. Was it that?
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a bad request. I always forget these scopes here. Groups, read, write. I think it was groups, read, write, all. Maybe it's group. No?
Okay, anyway, we don't
whatever.
There
is yeah, exactly. There's a new PnP unified group commandlet that allows you to specify all the properties. You enter that and you log in successfully. Which
Paolo actually pasted it in, so that's fine. Cool.
Okay, thank you, Paolo.
We can do this because creation of a group takes only a few seconds. We can make this happen. Yeah? Hopefully in a matter of those 3 minutes which we have time. We've shown this quite a few times actually in the special intergroup calls, and in the, I think we showed this even in the monthly call as well, but just to pinpoint this one, and you're able to then create a modern group as long as you have the consent properly done. Now, in the SharePoint engineering, we are currently working on a more native APIs to create modern groups or modern SharePoint sites as well, and we'll publish more information on that one whenever that's available, which will hopefully happen within the next month. We'll see how it goes. But the whole point being on the fact that right now, currently, the only documented way of creating a modern group with a modern SharePoint site is by using the Microsoft Graph endpoints, and that's not really necessarily the best way of doing that. So we're looking into having a more native support in a SharePoint for that. And there goes the command, and it usually takes around 15 to 20 seconds to create the group. And there we go. That was relatively fast. We do have now a modern team site available within that URL as well, which is pretty cool. Good, but let's not actually check that one out. So I'm going to switch back on the slides, and I think we're running out of time, so we can close up the call as well, because we want to be pretty precise on the timings. Now, if you have any questions related on what we've gone through today, related on SharePoint framework or the client-side development, please join on Thursday's special interest group call, which is on this Thursday. Or if you have any questions around, let's say, PnP PowerShell, PnP provisioning engine, feel free to join in the week. I think it's on Wednesday next week. Is the following special interest group around the PnP PowerShell, PnP Core, and provisioning engine. Because in those special interest groups, we typically have more time on the questions. You can unmute yourself, and we can have an open discussion on your issues as well. And if you have any specific issues, please use the issue lists in the GitHub as well. Because those help on us to track your situation. And how did I ended up on the first slide? I'm going to actually move into the last slide, and I think we are pretty much ready to go. But thank you everybody for joining this week and this month. and we'll try to follow up if there's any iron window or questions which we didn't follow up. Please use the PnP AKMS SP PnP community URL, the SharePoint developer group in the Microsoft Tech community. We are trying to follow up on there as well. You can tag us using the @ mechanism, and that will actually end up having an email sent to us, and then we will hopefully have time to follow up on the questions. And please join the special interest group calls if you have any specific topics to ask there as well. But thank you everybody for joining today, and thank you Frank on a great demo, and Irvin on a great demo on a PowerShell side, and thank you already before, and thank you for every single contributor in January, and we will come up with a new release in early March. So thank you everybody. Bye bye.